Malcolm-Jamal Warner, dead at the age of 54 on a drowning accident while he was vacationing with his family in Costa Rica.
I am tired of running for shade. And aren't you tired of being hustled and played? And aren't we all tired of crying about how hard it is to be black in America, even if it looks like we've got...
It started with a whisper, a notification that felt like a punch to the soul. NBC News confirmed the unimaginable. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was dead at just 54 years old. For millions, the world stopped turning. Not just because we lost a talented actor, but because we lost Theo Huxtable, the smile of an entire generation, the spirit behind one of television's most beloved sons. The man whose face grew up alongside ours, who gave us laughter, relatability, and hope, was suddenly gone, found face down on a beach in Costa Rica, with the waves gently pulling him into silence. The official report claimed drowning, a tragic accident. But those words felt too neat, too clean. Because behind the surf and sand, a storm was brewing, not in the ocean, but in the hearts of those left behind. The date, July 20th, 2025, now etched into collective grief. What began as a peaceful solo retreat to Cockles Beach became the epicenter of a mystery that no one seems eager to explain. According to authorities, Malcolm went out for a walk that evening, alone, without security, without warning. No official reason why, just a quiet man slipping away from the world. And yet, nothing about his final hours feels right. No health warnings. No suicide notes. No dramatic Hollywood lifestyle spiraling out of control. Just silence. A silence that screams. That echoes louder than applause ever did. And what deepens the ache is what's missing. Where was his phone? Who did he call before it vanished? Why was his last Instagram post so cryptic? Reading. Sometimes silence screams the loudest. And why has no one explained why his body had markings inconsistent with drowning bruises on his ribs? A struggle suggested but not confirmed. The official report says one thing, but the whispers, they say something else entirely. Especially when his own mother, long past, was the first name he uttered in his final voice note, a voice note that, according to sources, was never sent but recovered from his locked phone. "Ma, if I don't make it back, know that I found peace." How could that be coincidence? And when you look closer, the grief only grows deeper. Felicia Rashad, the actress who played his on-screen mother, Claire Huxtable, collapsed during a live interview when the news broke. She whispered, "Not Malcolm, not my son." And the world shattered with her. Raven-Symoné, Keshia Knight Pulliam, Tempestt Bledsoe, all canceled their appearances. The tributes were instant, raw, and heartbreaking. But as the tears poured in, so did the questions. Because Malcolm-Jamal Warner wasn't just a casualty of water. He may have been a casualty of silence. In the weeks before his death, insiders now reveal, Malcolm had been struggling, emotionally, spiritually, creatively. He was reportedly in conflict with a major studio over control of his work. He had walked away from several roles, despite the promise of high payouts. He felt unseen, unheard, still trapped in the shadow of a role he played decades ago. "They still call me Theo," he once said. But Theo was a character. "I'm real. And they don't see me." It wasn't just about acting anymore. It was about identity, about being trapped in a legacy that had turned into a burden. A role that was once a blessing had become a silent cage. Behind the scenes, friends say he cried often. That he had isolated himself. That the trip to Costa Rica wasn't just a vacation, it was an escape. But what exactly was he escaping from? His marriage, according to sources, had quietly crumbled, a union kept secret from the public, now reportedly strained by distance, pressure, and Hollywood's unrelenting glare. The documentary he had just completed about healing from childhood trauma was said to have left him emotionally exhausted, and in private, he watched old Cosby Show episodes, not with joy, but sorrow, rewatching scenes between Theo and Cliff in silence, with tears in his eyes. He had told Tempestt Bledsoe the night before his trip, "If I go out, I want the ocean to carry me home." At the time, she thought it was poetic. Now, she wonders if it was a warning. And then, the diary, a handwritten letter discovered beneath a towel near the beach, addressed simply to Mom. "I miss you," it read. "I miss your eyes, your laugh, the way you saw through me. I'm tired of being strong. Every time someone calls me Theo, it feels like another chain tightening. I wish I could have been more than just a character." Those words were never meant to be read by the world. But once leaked, they spread like wildfire across TikTok, across Instagram, stitched over, nostalgic Cosby clips with heart-wrenching contrast. The sitcom theme we all loved now became a soundtrack to his pain. And then came the voice recordings. Journal entries saved as audio files, recovered from his rental villa. In one, Malcolm's voice trembles as he says, "I feel like a ghost. I smile for the cameras, but inside, I'm fading. Everyone sees Theo. No one sees me." The world wept, because we realized too late that we'd never truly seen him either. He had spent a lifetime being everyone's TV brother, everyone's favorite sitcom son, but no one had asked, who was there for him? The whispers of foul play grew louder when a witness came forward, a tourist named Chloe Evans, who had captured what looked like a struggle on camera, a blurry clip of Malcolm waving, not like hi, but help. The video was passed to Costa Rican authorities, but no updates were given. Meanwhile, his passport and phone mysteriously vanished for hours before being returned by a local fisherman. Unnamed. Details like this should raise alarms, but instead, they were buried beneath headlines of tragic accident and drowning confirmed. Yet, behind the scenes, an entirely different narrative was forming. One that fans refused to ignore. Hashtags like hashtag #JusticeForMalcolm and hashtag theodeservedbetter began trending globally. A change.org petition was launched to demand an independent U.S. investigation into the circumstances of his death. Celebrities, like Issa Rae, Taraji P, Henson, and Donald-Glover echoed what the fans already knew: this didn't add up. Not with the bruises, not with the missing phone, not with that letter, not with a man who had just finished a project he said meant the world to him. A man who reportedly had meetings scheduled the following week about launching a new platform for Black creatives. A man who was tired, yes, but also planning for the future. The pieces don't fit. And while some cling to the accident narrative for comfort, others know the truth is more painful, and perhaps darker than we're ready to admit. Because Malcolm-Jamal Warner didn't just die, he was failed. By Hollywood, by the media, maybe even by those closest to him. And now the only way to honor him is to finally listen, not to Theo, not to the character, but to the man, the one who had been whispering for years, drowning in plain sight. And the truth, the real truth, it's still out there, waiting to be heard. As the waves of Cockles Beach swallowed the final breath of Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the world found itself grappling not just with grief, but with guilt. Guilt for not hearing the pain behind the smile. Guilt for celebrating Theo Huxtable for decades, while never asking what it cost the man behind the role. Guilt for mistaking silence for peace. In the hours following the confirmation of his death, the tributes flowed like a river, beautiful, but hollow. Candlelight vigils sprang up across the country. At NBC Studios in Manhattan, where The Cosby Show had been filmed, hundreds gathered. Some brought vintage VHS tapes, others brought posters. One young boy held a sign that read, "Thank you, Theo, for showing me how to love my sister." His mother stood beside him, weeping quietly, as the echoes of an old sitcom theme played softly in the background. But even in those tributes, the shadows crept in, because the world had already begun to unearth details that made the word accident feel like a lie. An autopsy report, quietly leaked to an independent journalist, revealed bruising across Malcolm's ribcage and lower back. The forensic notes included possible struggle indicators, and an ambiguous remark: blunt force trauma cannot be ruled out. Suddenly, the idea that he had simply wandered too far into the ocean didn't make sense, especially when witnesses, including a bar owner and several hotel guests, began speaking to reporters off the record. One claimed to have seen Malcolm arguing with a tall man in a gray hoodie just hours before his disappearance. Another swore she saw a second man following him along the beach. And then came the most chilling revelation of all. Malcolm's phone had been recovered, but much of its data had been wiped. No outgoing calls. No recent messages. No location data after 10:57 a.m., the same time his unsent voice note to his mother had been recorded. Who erased it? Why? And how did it reappear hours later, in the hands of a local who refused to be identified? These weren't just questions. They were cracks in a narrative that was beginning to fall apart. The whispers inside Hollywood grew louder. One insider, who had worked with Malcolm on his recent documentary about childhood trauma, said he was worried, paranoid even in the final weeks. He kept saying people were watching him, that someone didn't want the documentary to be finished. I thought he was just exhausted. But now, she trailed off, shaking her head. Another former co-star, speaking anonymously, said Malcolm had confessed to feeling